Okay, everybody, let's recap what the lesson was all about. So today we started a new chapter, and it's all about linear regression lines, but straight lines. Okay, so then we went back to first talking about regular old lines. So if we want to graph a line, then we need an equation of a line. We use what we call slope-intercept form, and this equation right here, y equals mx plus b, is the equation we use. M is the slope, which we know slope is rise over run, and b is the y-intercept, which is where it crosses. So I took an example, and I graphed from point A and point B, and I drew my line. So if I need this equation, y equals mx plus b, I need the m. Now m is the rise over run, so I just walked up the graph, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, so I knew my slope was 2/3. My y-intercept is where it crosses, and b crosses right here at -2, so that's pretty easy. Here is the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. Now, what happens if you can't graph it? You need formulas. So let me show you the next example. So the next example was if I had 2 different points that were difficult to graph. So what I need is a formula. So I need the point slope formula. But before I can use the point slope formula, I need the slope formula. So the slope formula gives me the m, which is the slope, but I need a formula that says y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. How does this work? Well, every point, here's my examples, point C and point D, has an x and a y value. That's my first point, so that's x1, y1. Point D, that's my second point, so that's x2, y2. So x1, y1 go into the formula, x2, y2 go to the formula. So I wrote y2, which is -1.2, subtract y1, which is 2.6, all divided by x2, which is 10.5, subtract x1, which is 5.3. And I used a calculator. With that minus that, I got -3.8. That, subtract that, I got 5.2, and then I used my calculator, I got a decimal answer. That's okay. I got a decimal answer of 0.73. Now, I have a slope, so then I go to my point slope formula, because I have a slope, and I have a point. So I took my point and my slope, and I'm going to use my point slope formula. Okay, my slope, that's m, that's going to go right there. My y1 is going to go there, my x1 is going to go there. So I wrote that y minus y1, 2.6, equals m, which is a -0.73 times x, minus x1, which is my 5.3. And then I simplified it. I did the distributive property, that times that, that times that. I got a -0.73x plus 3.87. Then I wanted to simplify it more, so I went plus 2.6 plus 2.6, and here's my equation. Y equals a -0.73x plus 6.47. Then we went to the book after all that. We look, okay, well, what happens when you get something like this? So we graph these 5 points, but they don't graph very well. They're not in a perfect line. So what I did is I said pick any 2 points. So these are the 2 points I picked right here. So I wrote down the 2 points, 15, 37, and 100, 100. Those are the 2 points. I could have picked any points. I could have picked those 2. I could have picked those 2, but those 2 I picked, okay? And then I worked out my slope, just like we just saw, my x1, y1, x2, y2, and I used my slope formula. I wound up with a decimal slope, okay? So I got my slope, and then I needed my y-intercept. Again, I needed this equation. I needed my point slope formula. I took my point 1, x1, y1, and my slope, and I plugged them into my formula. 15 goes there, 37 goes there, x1, y1, and I put my slope, 0.84 there. I distributed, I multiplied 0.84 times x, 0.84 times -15, I got a -12.6. Finally solved by going plus 37, and here's the equation I ended up getting. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it just tells me that if it's 0 degrees, I'll have 24.4 customers. It also tells me for every degree it goes up, I get 0.84 customers. So then I said, okay, let's use the formula. So I took my formula that I found, and I plugged 85 in it. So it's 85 degrees. I plugged that in for x. Took my 85, plugged in for x, and I used my calculator, and I got 86. So 86 customers. So then the rest of this I left for homework for you. Okay, and that's all I have for today, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow. And you also had a math yet. So homework was to finish this up.